The American Southwest of Arizona is home to some monumental monoliths, grand canyons, petrified forests, and vividly painted deserts. It is here that you will find one of the busiest mainline railroads in America. Join 7 Idea Productions on a fantastic adventure across the Grand Canyon State on BNSF's Seligman and Gallup subdivisions. In part 1 of this 2-part series, we will travel the western half of the state, beginning at Needles, California. We'll head east across the Mojave Desert to Kingman Canyon, where the grade reaches 1.8%. Then on to Crozier Canyon, the double-track tunnel at Nelson, Seligman, and up the western slope of the Colorado Plateau to Williams, just south of the Grand Canyon. In part 2, we will continue east to the New Mexico border after cresting the summit of the Colorado Plateau at over 7,000 feet. Join us now for Across Arizona, BNSF's Arizona Mainline, Part 1. BNSF's Transcontinental Mainline across Arizona consists of 2 different subdivisions. The Seligman sub, which runs between Needles, California and Winslow, Arizona, and the Gallup sub, which continues east of Winslow into New Mexico. Today, we will cover over 200 miles of the Seligman sub beginning at Needles and head railroad east through Topock, Frankonia, Kingman Canyon, Valentine, Crozier Canyon, Nelson, and Seligman. East of Seligman, the double-track main follows the 44-mile Williams to Crookton realignment, which was opened in late 1960. A series of cuts and fills and many high-speed curves brings trains up the west side of the Colorado Plateau through Eagle Nest, Doublea, and Perrin before arriving at Williams Junction. The desert wind whistles through the code lines, decorating the right-of-way at West Needles, milepost 580.2 on the Needles sub. The distant horizon is etched by the lifeless peaks of the Dead Mountains, while an eastbound autorack train waits patiently to enter town. The hot, dry air is soon filled with the steady drumming of big 4-stroke diesel engines as a trio of GEs lead a Z train up the hill and west to Barstow on the number 2 track. The BNSF Southern Transcon is a busy line, seeing over 70 trains per day, running between Los Angeles and Chicago. Just west of the Arizona border, Needles is a crew change point with a triple-track mainline to help trains get in and out of town. It's not uncommon to see eastbound trains held at West Needles until the BNSF dispatcher has a place for them to go. BNSF 7547 finally gets a yellow on Main 1 and eases down grade toward town as a 3-way meet is about to unfold. The third main line runs behind us and comes into view as we look east. The Autorack train slows as it approaches Needles, while BNSF 7305 West leads a long train of international stacks out of the busy yard. It is working on a yellow block on Main 2 as it follows another Z train up the grade. An eastbound appears above the train, gliding down grade at a good clip. It'll soon pass our location on Main 3. As BNSF 6522 races into Needles, the stack train's remote control units come into view, shoving on the rear of the train. Needles is located at milepost 578.0. BNSF 7214 East rolls into town for a crew change. This is a high-priority Z9 containing mostly UPS trailers and containers. These trains travel light and fast, with plenty of power up front. Needles is a division point on the Transcon, with the Needles sub heading west to Barstow and the Seligman sub continuing east to Winslow, Arizona, 296.4 miles away. The 7214 pauses momentarily to take on a fresh crew, but soon it's back on the move for a run over the Seligman sub. Needles was founded in 1883 with the coming of the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway. This has been a stop for trains for over 130 years. The triple-track main through here is always busy, with trains heading both east and west after changing crews. Located in the eastern Mojave Desert, with an elevation of only 495 feet above sea level, Needles can be a hot location in the summer months, with temperatures often topping 120 degrees. Two eastbounds roll into town on Mains 1 and 3, as a westbound departs on Main 2. Set up near the east end of the yard, BNSF 6540 has just made a crew change and picks up speed as it departs Needles. East of Needles, the railroad becomes a double-track main line, spanning the state of Arizona. Trains roll through mud mounds as they head up and down a few short 1% grades to the Colorado River at Topock. Just west of the river, near milepost 567, a stack train led by BNSF 6547 heads east in the growing evening shadows. With a golden hour upon us, BNSF 6809 West leads an evening manifest bound for Barstow. The rear of the train is just crossing the Colorado River at Topock. The train continues to Needles as the sun sinks below the horizon. Darkness comes quickly to the desert. With the purple Sacramento Mountains rising to the west, BNSF 7401 embarks on a nighttime trek across the Seligman Sub. We get our first glimpse of the Colorado River just below the Needles, a group of peaks that rise above the river on the Arizona side of the Topock Gorge. Topock is a popular location for boaters. The cool river makes an excellent destination for those who live in the hot desert climate. The nearby Topock Marina is located just off historic Route 66 between Needles and Lake Havasu City. Peering across the Colorado into the state of Arizona, our next train appears as it reaches the east end of Topock. With an elevation of only 456 feet, this is the lowest point on the Seligman subdivision. As we continue east, the railroad will climb to over 7,300 feet above sea level, just west of Flagstaff. In the meantime, the westbound Z train, consisting almost entirely of trailers, races through Topock and over the Colorado River as it crosses into California on a hot spring afternoon. The Colorado River Bridge was opened in March of 1945. The deck truss bridge spans 1,500 feet across the river and replaced the older Red Rock Bridge, which was located just to the south. The morning sun is just above the eastern horizon, and we have moved to the Arizona side of the river. BNSF 8215 East leads an intermodal train past the same mud mounds we viewed the previous evening. The train approaches Topock in the cool desert morning. The lead unit, the BNSF 8215, is a brand new General Electric ES44C4 on one of its first revenue runs. The train continues to glide east through Topock, but soon will begin a 47-mile, 1.4% climb, stiffening to 1.8% through Kingman Canyon. Moving east to Frankonia, a bridge crosses a dry wash at milepost 552.2. The letters HWD on the sign indicates a high water detector is installed on the bridge to warn train crews of severe flash floods which can occur during the wet monsoon season between July and September. A sensor in this box is tied to the signals at both east and west Frankonia, which would drop to red if the water was too high here. The system works much like a slide fence does in mountain territory. The wash is dry today, but evidence of flash floods can be seen at the feet of the bridge. On this April morning, the weather is clear and sunny as BNSF 7290 East takes a long stack train over the wash at Frankonia. Two radio-controlled DP units shove on the rear of the train as it continues past the signal bridge at East Frankonia, milepost 551.7. Continuing east, Bridge 544.6 crosses the Sacramento Wash near the old station of Haviland. The wash runs along the southern boundary of the Black Mountains. The bright orange flowers of Ocotillo add a splash of color to the scene as BNSF 7246 East works up the 1.42% grade with a stack train. Malboard 539.5 marks a spur track at Yucca. This was an important water stop back in the days of steam. Today, the water tanks are all gone, as BNSF 8011 East stops up the grade, which heads compass north toward Kingman Canyon. East of Yucca, the Hualapai Mountains give off a crimson glow from the dying desert sun, and an evening chill begins to settle in. We are set up at East Griffith, where mains 1 and 2 separate from each other before entering Kingman Canyon. A clear block shows on main 1 for BNSF 7352, as 5 GEs totaling 21,950 horsepower leads a loaded ethanol train west across the desert. Moving to the other side of the signal bridge, a high green tells us that BNSF Dispatcher 11 has an eastbound line through here on Main 2. Looking the other way, we can make out its headlight in the distance and a flashing yellow at West Griffith. A westbound BNSF 6910 approaches and dims its lights for the meet. After the train passes, all is calm for the moment. The dark forms of the mountains above Kingman Canyon rise behind the signals at East Griffith, while the polished rail reflects their light. In the distance, the eastbound crawls over a small rise and drops the distant signals at West Griffith. Prickly pear and cholla cactus decorate the rocky floor of Kingman Canyon, located along the eastern edge of the Mojave Desert. Since leaving Topock, eastbound trains have battled a nearly steady 1.42% grade. Here, it increases to 1.8% before leveling off east of Kingman. And eastbound climbs the grade on Main 2 as it crosses the 101-foot span of Bridge 519.4X. Climbing above the eastbound track, BNSF 8038 grinds up the grade over Holy Moses Wash via Bridge 518.6X. Although not very visible from this location, it is the most photographed bridge in Kingman Canyon. As the train continues into Kingman, we move closer to the westbound Main 1. Amidst a jumble of Yucca, we watch BNSF 7903 West glide down grade in dynamics with a stack train running 3x2. Soon we hear an eastbound Z train climbing the grade on Main 2. We take another look at the bridge over Holy Moses Wash from the shoulder of Route 66, as another eastbound thunders through the canyon. East and westbound mains come back together at Kingman, a railroad town named for Louis Kingman, who was a surveyor for the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. Route 66 also heads through town under the name Andy Devine Avenue. The late Hollywood cowboy actor was raised here. The historic road passes Locomotive Park, which proudly displays the 3759, a 484-3751 class steam locomotive which ran between Los Angeles and Kansas City, racking up over 2.5 million miles. It was donated by the Santa Fe in 1957. Kingman Station was opened in July of 1907 and has recently been restored by the city. Amtrak's Southwest Chief stops here during the night on both its east and westbound runs. Heading east of the depot, a clear signal shows on Main 2, and a late afternoon meet is about to unfold. BNSF 7452 East appears first and passes the depot as it climbs the grade through Kingman. The 4 big GEs are working hard in the afternoon sun. Between Kingman and Getz, the lines run on separate grades for about 2 miles. A westbound race is downgrade at Getz on the north track. Getz marks the top of the continuous grade which began at Topock. The tracks have gained 2,877 feet in elevation thus far. East of here, eastbound trains get a short reprieve from the climb, with a downhill grade of less than 1% as they roll through the Wallapai Valley. At Hackberry, the Transcon crosses the Crookton Wash on a 322-foot-long through-girder bridge. The station appears as Berry on the timetable. A westbound Z races across the wash in the late afternoon. East of Berry, the double-track main follows the Crookton Wash through Valentine as it passes beneath the Cottonwood Cliffs. The track speed here is 70 for freight and 90 for passengers. BNSF 6572 West leads a rack train through West Valentine, milepost 485.8. Right behind it, BNSF 6522 West has just exited Crozier Canyon and now sprints toward Kingman, knocking down the signal at East Valentine. East of Valentine, the double-track main curves through Crozier Canyon, and track speed is reduced for the numerous curves through here. A westbound Z heads down the 1.42% grade in dynamics. Another westbound takes the same route, and we watch as the train snakes its way through the west end of the canyon, near milepost 480. Continuing east through Crozier Canyon, BNSF 7244 West crosses Bridge 479.2 over the Truxton Wash. The canyon is located inside the Crozier Ranch, and fences are up to keep cattle off the right-of-way. This fence post was cut from a juniper limb, since juniper is the only tree that grows in this area. The rumble of big GEs is again heard as BNSF 1046 exits the east end of Crozier Canyon with an empty ethanol train. The train meets BNSF 8215 West. This is the same new C4 we saw just a few days earlier at Topock, now making a return trip to California. Trains continue east through Peach Springs and Nelson, where they pass through the only tunnel on the Arizona Transcon at milepost 457.5. The Nelson Tunnel was completed in 1923 and is 414 feet in length. BNSF 7080 heads east on Main 2 through the tunnel. East of the tunnel, a lizard perches on a rock near the tracks. He soon disappears as an approaching train is heard. Two more brand new C4s, number 8218 and 8219, lead an autorack train up the 1.42% grade, just east of the tunnel. Behind the rack train, BNSF 7504 is in charge of a long, heavy string of double stacks. It climbs eastward through Nelson Canyon with a total of 6 engines online, pulling with a combined 26,340 horsepower. Eastbound trains continued the 1.42% climb to Yampai, then dropped down into the Aubrey Valley at Pica. A pair of old water tanks still stand at milepost 477 near the new signal bridge at West Pica. The fleeting sun highlights the Aubrey Cliffs below the western edge of the Coconino Plateau as BNSF 7424 West drops through a sag, then tackles the next uphill grade. The westbound continues to climb to Yampai, and we decide to head for higher ground. Chino Point is on the southern tip of Red Mesa, located just outside of Seligman, and the view from here is fantastic. Looking to the west, a stacked train climbs a grade between Pica and Yampai, while 2 more trains are about to meet near Audley. Below us, an eastbound manifest meets a westbound stack train. At this point, the grades again separate for a short distance, then come back together when they reach Seligman. The Seligman sub sees mainly right-hand running, as is the case here. The manifest is on the eastbound Main 2, while the stack train heads west on Main 1. The Seligman sub sees over 70 trains per day, and traffic is hot and heavy this morning. Just as the eastbound disappears, another westbound stack train comes into view and heads up the hill toward Pica. This portion of the BNSF Transcon parallels historic Route 66 between Seligman and Kingman. The mother road can be seen along the north side of the tracks. Our train meets an eastbound stacker on the curve near Audley, around milepost 439. One doesn't pass through Seligman, Arizona without spending some time along old Route 66. Bypassed in the late 1970s with the building of Interstate 40, Seligman has held on to the charm of America's Main Street. It was the inspiration for the town of Radiator Springs in the popular Disney Pixar movie Cars. And if all the exploration of town makes you hungry, you might want to grab a bite to eat at the Roadkill Cafe. Just be sure to save the receipt so you can show your friends. Seligman was a crew change point on the Santa Fe between Needles and Winslow until 1985. Now, train crews run the entire 294 miles of the subdivision. This was a helper terminal and boasted an 8-track yard, roundhouse, steam engine servicing facility, and was even a shipping point for livestock. Today, trains roll right through town as they hurry across the busy Transcon. BNSF 6530 East climbs the 1.42% grade as it heads for Crookton, leaving Seligman behind. We return to the same location just after dark as another eastbound climbs the grade out of Seligman. As the train heads off into the night, a headlight of a westbound appears. We catch up to the BNSF 6530 East again as it meets a westbound stopped at the west end of Crookton, near milepost 420. This is the start of the 44-mile line relocation to Williams Junction, which was completed in December of 1960. The old line more or less followed Route 66 through Ash Fork and the town of Williams. The eastern portion is still used, connecting Phoenix, Arizona with the Transcon. It is known as the P-Vine. Crookton, the grade eases for eastbound trains through Eagle Nest. The railroad begins to climb the west side of the Colorado Plateau through several cuts and fills, and the scenery begins to change. Stands of juniper become thicker, greening up the surroundings. BNSF 6639 East rolls through a cut just west of Eagle Nest at milepost 409. The railroad continues to gain elevation on a nearly steady 1% grade between Eagle Nest and Williams Junction. Storm clouds build over the impressive cut near Doublea, named for the nearby Doublea Ranch. The cut is 1 mile long and 115 feet deep. BNSF 6888 West exits the cut on the downgrade. West Doublea is located at the east end of the impressive cut. BNSF 8050, another ES44 C4, stomps up grade with stacks and containers in tow. GE ES44C4s are everywhere on the Transcon. The engines have 6 axles, however the middle axle on each truck is unpowered, hence the designation C4. 2 C4s, BNSF 6973 and 6863, lead an older 6-motor-9 on the point of an eastbound manifest. As the train continues past the crossovers at East Doublea, we move uphill between Perrin and Williams. BNSF 7152 East leads a stack train upgrade. The train disappears into a cut as it nears Williams. Although not as big as Doublea, it offers some nice photo opportunities. Soon, BNSF 4534 West heads down the 1% grade. Climbing up the north side of the cut, we watch BNSF 7326 West gliding past on the number 1 track. railroad crosses a large fill to the north and east of Williams, Arizona. We are now at an elevation of 6,766 feet above sea level as we near the east end of the 44-mile Williams-Crookton line relocation. As the railroad passes Williams, it flies over the old Santa Fe route to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. Today, the privately owned Grand Canyon Railway makes excursions along the 64-mile line every day except Christmas. The shops are located just south of the Transcon. It's 5:45 p.m., and today's train is right on time as it arrives back at Williams after spending the day at the South Rim Village. EMDF 40PH number 295 and Alco FPB4 number 6860 pulls the train past the shops. This branch line was completed by the Santa Fe in 1901, and the first scheduled train ran on September 17th of that year. Passenger service continued until 1968. Then the line fell into obscurity for 20 years. Under new ownership, passenger service returned in September of 1989, and the trains have been running ever since. A set of Alcos looks sharp, sitting just south of the shops, but today's star is the ex-CB&Q 4960 on the point of a Saturday excursion train to the Grand Canyon. The 4960 is burning recycled vegetable oil. The steam special runs only once per month during the summer. The rustic Santa Fe Grand Canyon Depot greets rail passengers to the South Rim. Completed in 1910, it is one of only 3 remaining railroad depots in the United States built out of logs. The train backs into the depot, and passengers enjoy a 3-hour layover with rim tours before returning to Williams. Of course, the feature attraction is the Grand Canyon. Stretching 277 miles long, up to 18 miles wide, and over 1 mile deep, the Grand Canyon is something one has to see in person to truly appreciate its vastness. President Theodore Roosevelt visited the canyon on many occasions and was a major proponent of its preservation as a national park. Competition from automobiles forced the Santa Fe to discontinue passenger service to the Grand Canyon in 1968. Since its rebirth in 1989, the Grand Canyon Railway has brought hundreds of thousands of visitors to see views like this every year, and hopefully will continue to do so for many decades to come. Returning once again to the Transcon, we set up at West Williams Junction, where the Peavine breaks away from the Seligman sub. The signal is for an eastbound coming out of Phoenix, Arizona, and it changes from solid to flashing yellow as the train ahead enters the next block to the east. Our final train of the day approaches with more JB Hunt stacks heading west. Sometime late tonight, this train will arrive in Needles for a crew change after completing another successful run over the Seligman sub. The sun will soon set after another picture-perfect postcard day, but keep in mind we are at nearly 7,000 feet in elevation, and by morning, Williams Junction will begin to take on a whole new appearance. Until next time, thanks for watching.